Hello everybody and welcome. My name's Don Arleth and you're watching World Talks here on TVP World. NATO is weighing a shift towards a more assertive posture in countering Russia's hybrid warfare amid rising concerns over cyber attacks, sabotage, and airspace violations. Admiral Giuseppe Cavo Dragone, the alliance's top military official, said NATO is exploring more proactive measures, potentially even preemptive actions, as Europe faces a growing wave of hostile activities linked to Moscow. Now joining us to discuss how European nations should tackle the problem of Russia's hybrid warfare attacks is Joanna Siekiera, international lawyer at the Atlantic Council. Hello, Joanna, and thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure to be back. Thank you.
Now, I'd like to start off with Lithuania. Their costs are mounting due to these smuggler balloons carrying contraband cigarettes, but they're saying that this is a hybrid attack. And, you know, every time they have to close the airports, this costs money. So Lithuania is pushing for increased sanctions on Belarus. Do you think that this is the proper deterrence to make these smuggler balloons go away over Lithuanian airspace?
Absolutely not. This is what I've been teaching NATO, also American soldiers, that we must think like a perpetrator. They have different values and they are not ashamed of protecting their own values. But we still expect to protect ours in our way. So as you said, civilized way by sanctions. But they don't care about our sanctions. They have their own allies, they have their own partners, and they can do just fine. This is in our perception that if we pose some sanctions like we did on Russia, but I will just remind you, we did not sanction gold or diamonds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're soon going to be on our 20th sanctions package, probably just around the corner. Well, now, before we talk about the exact response to such attacks, would you say that Europe is prepared to even deal with the problem, or is this a work in progress? Are we learning as we go?
I don't even think we have started. I will be very brutally honest with you. Europeans are not prepared. We all think that someday there will be some tanks on our borders. But as a civil society, how to prepare even before blackouts, before some problems with internet or access to water, we are not prepared. We don't have it in our communities, in Poland voivodeships. So there is a lot to discover, even through social media. How about education? We are all focusing on military deterrence, which is important. But how about us, normal civilians?
Right.
We don't have it.
Right. So how do we prepare our societies to be more vigilant, to be more aware of what's
even
going
the
on
fact that we
them?
are talking about this now in public television, I think that's a good start, because people will get information from television, from social media. So to tell them how to protect their own families, to use, for example, energy generators, how to stack food, how to protect their most vulnerable members of the family, because we don't know that. We think about war like in relation to Second World War. But now, as you said, we live in kinetic warfare, that our enemies, not only Russia, but also China, they know how to maneuver. They know how to, for example, get into software of our train system across Europe, to get into our airports, harbors, and that's the problem. We are anyhow prepared, and they know.
But yet we are limited by our own ethics and by the rule of law, right?
Correct.
So this is not quite a fair matchup. Do the Europeans need to start thinking much more aggressively about countering these attacks? We hear out of the Financial Times today that NATO is considering being more aggressive. NATO's military committee chief has said that maybe even a preemptive strike could be considered defensive.
One of my absolutely favorite legal tactics, so preemptive defense. This is very obvious in American doctrine. When I go to US, I don't have to even explain that. Unlike in the European Union forces, for us, we have to wait to be able to legally protect ourselves. But this is strange, this is wrong, this is against our own safety and security. So we have law, but law is the effect of the values of the society. So we must change the values first. That it's not that we are the bad guys, that we want to protect ourselves. We must start seeing law as a weapon. Whenever I say weaponization of law, Europeans are like, oh no, don't say that, it's so bad. It's like, it is not me being bad. This is Russia, China, North Korea, Venezuela, terrorist groups. They already know how to maneuver law. They know how to use law against us. And we are only witnesses. So what has to happen that we will change the mindset?
Well, right, exactly. And then how do you institute something like that? How do you institute a fundamental change in, I guess it wouldn't be values, it's just the way that you behave and that you respond to such threats.
Correct. I think it's both. I think the military committee at NATO, and I'm a consultant in NATO for the past years, it's the mindset from the top, when it will be, I would say, imposed by politicians, by flag officers. Then everyone else would see, okay, if they give us green light, then we can act accordingly. Because so far, there is no law or even oral political declaration that we have a right to self-defense in a preemptive way, as you said. So far, Europeans are against that. This is very American doctrine.
Well, I think there's traditionally been a big fear of triggering Article 5 and what have
Correct.
you, but now it seems like the geopolitical landscape is somewhat changing, especially with the rift between the United States and
yes,
and
very
the rest
much,
of NATO.
especially now, yes.
And the war is right here at our doorstep. Well, if we look back at the sabotage incident that took place here in Poland on the Polish railways, how did we let these people into the country with the Ukrainians having prior knowledge that these were saboteurs?
Very much. This is my enormous question since the beginning, even when we were celebrating the hashtag Poland hold the line, right, with Belarusian border, that we wanted to be helpful to let everyone in, but at which cost? Mm-hmm. And now we are observing this cost. And then when I always underline, we cannot be certain that those men, they were working for Russia per se, because maybe they were paid by China, because China is also a big actor, but acting very secretly. We want to put everything on Russia because Russia is so close to us, but the tandem of Russia-China alliance is very dangerous. It's against our Judeo-Christian values, democracy, freedom of speech, even what we are doing here. So they are all benefiting. And my other question is, why passengers at those trains, they did not act or react? They must have seen something odd. What could have they done? To whom should have they called? They had zero knowledge what to do in such cases. Because as we spoke, we still think that war will be very kinetic, very old-fashioned way. But it's anyhow the case now. We will have more of those sabotage, terrorist attacks, using infrastructure, logistics, because those are the most fragile, but also the most, I would say, effective ways of showing, hey, we are here, and you haven't even noticed we were here for so long.
What about intelligence sharing? Is there enough of that going on amongst European nations, and especially with Ukraine, because Ukraine has a lot of knowledge of not only its own citizens, but its citizens under occupation, or even its citizens in Russia?
I would say that information is still a key, and countries, they decline to share the information because information is money. And war in Ukraine, and I've been on many NATO briefings, and I could see that countries are very protective. The case of drones, why we are not sharing information about drones? Well, I will give you the answer. Because Polish companies would like to benefit in producing such drones against, for example, Romanian drones. Romanians have a lot of experience with drones from Russia, both in Ukraine, but still, why would they give that information to Poland? Yes, we are allies, but we are also economic competitors.
Right, very much so. Well, hopefully that somewhat changes in the future. We need to address, I think, our common threat and
first of all address them. Correct.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Joanna Siekiera, the international lawyer at the Atlantic Council, thank you so much for joining us. Very much appreciated. Thank you. And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.